Per usual, everything on this channel is for educational purposes only and is not intended as financial advice. Let's take a look at some alts. It's Wednesday. As bad news bears as I'm going to be on alts, this really is when you want to establish a game plan for what you want to do, how you want to trade. Theoretically, right? A roadmap. Very few people actually care or are here right now for alts. I can tell you that based on several metrics, including my own content, views, impressions, and whatnot. But if we start with dominance for Bitcoin versus the world, dominance still remains in a bullish reversal stance. We're getting a bullish Kumo twist on the cloud. We're in an active edge to edge. So all this is to say, look, Bitcoin remains the play most likely based on dominance. Now this may go as high as 56, 60, right? I don't know. But it looks like it still wants more. And if you are an altcoin maximalist, really that's what you want to see. You want to see bearish exhaustion on the alt side of things. You want to see a massive imbalance on the Bitcoin pairs because that will encourage people eventually to look for rotation, to look for trades elsewhere, assuming there isn't some sort of massive, regulatory issue. So we are bearish on alts now, and we want to stay bearish, and we want to get exhausted on the bearish side of things. So we're not there yet. Just looking at dominance. If anything, dominance looks the most bullish it's looked in a long time, basically since the breakout at 50. We can also look at the market caps of altcoins. So this is total 3 on TradingView minus Tether, USDC, and wrapped Bitcoin. Currently around 227 billion. Now, theoretically, this could be, as many alt charts are showing, some sort of triple bottom, inverted head and shoulder situation. But where it sits currently, if you're trading this as a pattern, is not where I'm touching this, okay? I don't buy inverted head and shoulders patterns that are sitting in the middle of consolidation. So you're either hoping for a breakdown. If you want to, play easy mode, honestly, is alts are completely left for dead. This breaks down and we get turbo bearish on alts. Bad news for anyone sitting in alts now, but that makes your job, my job, much, much easier, I think, down the road if this thing retraces the entire 2021 rally, right? I don't necessarily think that's going to happen, but if it does, then we're resetting everything completely. We've seen this historically a few times, in DeFi especially, but otherwise, I'm just waiting for a break above probably 300 billion. Now, there are a few other factors here that are inhibiting inflows into alts, risk on behavior, let's say. If we look at rates in the United States, interest rates, 5.25 with CPI tomorrow, hey, if CPI is higher than expected, I think the current estimates forecasts I'm seeing are like 3.2. If CPI re-accelerates and the Fed needs to keep raising, I may get my wish where alts just puke extremely bearish very quickly up until, 2024, whatever it is. Because if the Fed keeps raising, that will continue to push money into risk-free interest yielding vehicles, out of the crypto ecosystem. So it will continue to encourage and incentivize people to stay away from altcoins. To say that another way, right? We're talking about a risk-free 5.25, potentially higher yield where you don't have to worry about anything, right? Custody, regulation, rugs, all that stuff. And, as Wall Street Journal reporter is showing, money markets, the highest they've been on yield since 2007. So assuming this doesn't blow up like it did in 2008, and we continue to either hold at rates this high or keep raising rates, we're swimming upstream. Okay, we're a salmon, we're an altcoin salmon swimming upstream. It's just very hard to fight against those flows when there's a lot of money that would just prefer to sit in mutual funds. Another way to look at this is to look at Google Trends, and I always get people who say, well, people don't look for altcoins anymore, or people don't blah, blah, blah anymore, or people know what altcoins are. All of that may be true, but if we look at Google Trends relative to 2020 and 2021, relative to 2017, to where we are now, there is very little search interest for the term altcoins. You can look at anything you want. Look at ETH, look at Chainlink, Solana. Not exactly showing exuberance here and or just any activity whatsoever, right? We're zeroed out. It makes sense to me that price is basically flat because we're seeing very little interest across the board. ETH relative to USDT, we're actually seeing about equal interest in search. Okay, so not exactly bullish for ETH, and we can look at ETH as well, and it's about even. Okay, this is worldwide past 5 years. Not exactly a bullish time for search, and generally with higher search, you see higher trading activity, higher volumes, higher prices, inflows, new users. We're just not seeing that. So until this changes in any regard, it's very hard for me to expect any sort of miracles in the short term. Looking at stablecoins, there was some market disruptions, some interesting activity on the market rate for Tether that appears to have fixed itself. We also have potential issues with Binance and Huobi that's just ongoing, continuous, and that's certainly going to hurt confidence in the alt market, flows to the alt market, etc. I would also like to see, stablecoin regulation in the US. I'd like to see whatever's going on with USDC get cleared up, whether this is some vampire attack or this is just lack of interest. Again, not helpful for the altcoin market, but worth watching because should that change, hey, that may indicate something, right? Like Google Trends. If we look at TVL, okay, I'm just giving all the bad news. I don't have any good data points. Everything just looks mediocre and bad. TVL, right, flat, unexciting. We're not seeing a bunch of money flowing in generally into DeFi. So a bit of a flat time period. Now, as far as ETH is concerned, I'm just as sick as looking at this chart pattern as you guys are, trust me. But for me, this 400 plus day chart pattern should continue to bring bullish vibes and bullish thoughts. ETH has had a series of ascending triangles in the past, as has Bitcoin, both acting as bullish reversals or bullish continuation. Doesn't matter. So I like the duration. I like the volume. I'm worried about this near-term potential head and shoulders triple top. But we'll know if we start breaking down, right? If we break down at 1600, we can throw this out the window. Until then, the expectation for me is this remains bullish. Any 3-day close above 2000, we're probably good to go. This little fake out was staking unlock excitement related, in my opinion. And even this excitement was some Ripple nonsense with that lawsuit. But as long as we can hold that diag, should be okay. The cloud doesn't tell you much other than on the daily, other than we're not really trending, right? We're flat. If you want to look for bullish things, maybe this is some sort of inverted head and shoulders, but I wouldn't bet money on it. Again, it tells you exactly what the ascending triangle tells you in that 2000 and we're home free. Until then, this does not look like much of anything. We do have a breakout on the 3-day, which I don't hate. Super high time frame cloud, but again, I'm not going to get excited until 2000. So that's the level I'm sure everyone is watching at this point. ETH BTC also continues to slowly just not look great, curl down. And this is a very up in the air trade, right? This is noisy, violent, unsure, easy to just sit out of this. Trading ETH BTC directly generally is a fool's errand anyway, but I'm watching to see if we stay in this channel or if we continue our sort of parabolic potential move lower, whether or not we hit 05. The cloud on the weekly is getting increasingly bearish with the bearish Kumo twist here. So until we're back above 0.75, I wouldn't get bullish on ETH BTC. And really at this point, it might be easier to see it retest 0.5 and go from there. I think the bear case would be 0.3 if there's some sort of BTC ETF approval within the next 4 to 6 months and we see some flows into BTC and not into ETH. I think that's how we get below 0.5, but we'll see what it looks like when that day comes. This week we tried to break down. We tried to break this neckline on the head and shoulders lower, hit 1800, bounced back, and it's just, again, kind of in no man's land. So even on short time frames, low time frames, there's just nothing here really for me anymore to trade in the moment. I was short from 1906. I let that go around 18 140 yesterday. So even I let go of my hedges because just nothing going on here. And before I talk about some of the other layer ones, let me mention today's video sponsor, Kraken Pro. Kraken Pro is a complete overhaul of the Kraken trading experience with a one-stop shop for advanced and professional traders. Kraken Pro enables efficient trading execution across multiple markets with a UI that allows for unique optimization tailored to your trading style. You can check out Kraken Pro with a link in the description of this video. So on Kraken Pro, let's go through what they have available for trading, at least in the layer 1 section. We talked about ETH. Let's talk about the others down to maybe ALGO. And as I was looking at Solana, I don't hate this chart. It's above the cloud. It's above its potential diagonal resistance. So if I'm bullish Solana, what do I want to do? What is the 50% retracement here from high to low? 140? That's a bit much as far as an expected target, in the near term. We could also take the top of the diag to the bottom of that inverted head and shoulders. 50% was 33, 36, almost wicked to that level. So I don't think there are like great ways to see a target here just yet, but all in all, this does look better than most alts based on technicals alone, right? So I don't hate it. Something else you can look at with these layer ones is obviously developers and dApps and users and staking and all that other stuff to help with the trading decisions, but just technicals alone doesn't look horrible. Ripple, unsurprisingly, since that ruling, Ripple has pulled back rather significantly, and Ripple had been in some sort of, ascending triangle, broke out of that. So I don't know what else anyone is waiting for in Ripple at this point. The news catalyst, news event happened. Trend-wise, it's not really trending. So just from a relative trade, I certainly like Solana better than Ripple. LTC had a halving last week. Would not be able to identify that on the chart. Trend-wise, nothing, right? Cloud is telling you we certainly aren't bullish. We certainly aren't bearish. we are flatline. We are nothing. Not something I want to touch. Tron looks okay. Trend-wise, it's I don't think there's anything I would touch here in the moment. Anything Huobi adjacent or Binance adjacent has some uncertainty along with it here. ADA also flat, unexciting, neutral. Certainly not as bearish as it was from all-time high or 2021 highs, but not a lot going on here. That's what you expect, right? Based on the analysis from the beginning. I'm not going to expect a miracle on anything here. Stellar actually looks a lot like Solana to me, coming off that triple bottom and potentially reconsolidating into some sort of triangle. It doesn't excite me like that ETH potential does. That's another issue with alts right now. If nothing looks as good potentially as ETH does, why aren't you just accumulating ETH, right? That would be my thought process relative to all this other stuff. Bcash. Now it broke out kind of like GME did, right? Arguably this thing had some sort of triple bottom range, whatever you want to call it. And then it had, I guess, good news, you could say. And now it's just reconsolidating, falling, wedging. Again, not anything that's actively trending bullish, but is certainly bullish based on the cloud metrics. Nothing that excites me there. DOT is kind of like the pre-Solana breakout. Again, it's got this character to it where there's a potential for a triple bottom for inverted head and shoulders. Cloud would like it above 565. Pattern would like it probably above 585, something like that, but maybe worth monitoring. Again, not that exciting overall. AVAX similar. I think the risk for some of these would be whether or not they have a descending triangle versus a triple bottom or inverted head and shoulder, a better chart pattern than what this bearishness may suggest. Now, it certainly isn't as bearish as it was from the top. It has consolidated, but just because it's down, 85% from the top doesn't mean it can't keep going down another 85%. Now, let's say let's say we were bearish AVAX. Where could we measure this to? Well, you can't really use fibs on the way down, but what we can do is take that depth of the pattern essentially, and even projecting that lower doesn't really help you. So if this does flip bearish, I would expect a high volume break of 11 to 10. That'd be a good sign to start to look for bearish exhaustion, but not quite there yet, just kind of in no man's land. And then ALGO, you can see, unlike some of these others, really has been pretty decently strong on the bearish side. My guess is what tips some of these over more than others would be issuance, emissions, inflation. And if you were to look at these side by side, from memory, I think AVAX has extremely high issuance, but ALGO may be up there as well. So in the moment, the cloud is telling you, look, this remains bearish. I don't think there's anything particularly special about this range. Maybe, again, you've got this question mark. Is this a descending triangle? Is this a triple bottom? Doesn't clearly look bullish, but if ALGO can get into this cloud, then I like a move to like 17 cents. But much like January, you want to see a bullish TK cross. We don't have that yet. And you definitely want to see price in the cloud, which we don't have that yet. So again, much like most of these alts, I would either watch for a break of horizontal level, 10 cents, nice psychological support. Watch for a break of that on volume, and then watch for bearish exhaustion via bullish divergence. And you would see that on RSI. What you'd want to see here is a lower low in price and a higher low in RSI. So we are potentially months away from that, but that's something to look for going forward. What you don't want to see is what you had in April, May, and June, just slow bleed. There's nothing more bearish than a slow bleed. So if we just, casually break 10 and then just slow bleed, I wouldn't expect any reversals in that case anytime soon. Let's check out some DeFi coins real quick here. After a week of madness coming off the curve problems, Maker still bullish, still above that diagonal resistance from consolidation. Pulling back a bit here though. The problem with these breakout trades, Ripple, Bcash, Solana, Maker, they go up so quickly that people take profit almost immediately. You can see we hit this 1618 fib extension. So that kind of kills the trend, right? You want this slow grind, much like a bearish bleed. You want a bullish bleed, slow, constant. Anything fast like this typically will attempt to retrace just as fast. So still bullish, but doesn't look like a great place to pick it up at the moment. Curve may just be done as a token. If all of the tokens sold through that special auction or special OTC deal end up in circulation at some point, those lockups are kind of a handshake, wink, wink type thing. So that uncertainty in the marketplace will probably get baked into price here. So I'm not a big fan of holding something like that over the long term. Comp did break down from that, triple top, head and shoulders type price action. And again, just it went up so fast, so quick, people take profit, and that's kind of it. Now it needs to reconsolidate, make a decision from there. I'm gonna look at AVE real quick. AVE still remains in potentially, descending triangle territory and has a ways to go on any consolidation. Just wrapping up real quick. Let's look at MATIC and DOGE, because I know those are popular coins. MATIC, there's nothing here. Just doesn't look like much of anything yet, Still trying to figure out what it wants to be when it grows up. Range bound, not exactly pretty. And then DOGE, the interesting thing about DOGE, I think it's worthless, but that doesn't matter because it's held at this range for over a year. It doesn't really look like much of anything. You can't reasonably say that there's some sort of pattern here. Any, bias or tip off. If we turn on the cloud, still neutral on the cloud, but if we can start to make new highs on DOGE, maybe we see a move there. That's a big, massive if, but not exactly something I'm throwing my money at this moment. So unsurprisingly, most everything kind of looks blah still. It's going to take time. Really, you need ETH to break out. You need BTC to stop being as strong as it is. Relative to alts, if you want to see movement in alts, you want to see rates come down, bearish exhaustion, eyeballs and attention coming back to the altcoin market. So that's all I have for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.